There are still so many strong yet underrated builds going around after the item and rune changes from 26.9, so we are back again to bring you guys 10 of the most OP new setups for 26.10.
Throughout the rift, a great migration occurs every 30 seconds. The minion wave, a vital food source for any climber who knows how to harvest it. But here, we observe one of nature's most baffling behaviors, the hard-stuck player abandoning his food source to chase a kill he will never get. Without proper wave management, he cannot survive, he cannot grow, he cannot climb. In the wild, this tragedy plays out thousands of times every minute, but today, something is different. Today, he discovered a powerful new tool. SkillCapped Season 16 macro and wave control courses, designed to teach even the most lost climber the secrets of the rift, walking you through every minute of the game step by step, from the very first wave all the way to closing out games cleanly. And unlike other guides in the wild, we focus on teaching you the macro concepts that actually work in solo queue, and most importantly, strategies you can execute without having to rely on the rest of your pack, which paired with our newly updated Essentials courses covers everything you need to master Season 16 for every role, giving you the complete roadmap to climb this season. And best of all, you can do it all completely risk-free, as you're backed up by a rank-up guarantee. If you somehow don't climb at least 5 divisions while actively using our service, then you get every penny back. For the first time in his life, he is no longer hard stuck. Check out the link in the description below for an exclusive one-time discount code.
There's a new hybrid build that has been gaining traction on Volibear over the past patch, and it revolves around static Shiv. Dusk and Dawn into Shiv is the core build, and it provides Volibear with so much burst power. Dusk and Dawn's passive proc combined with Shiv's passive proc allows you to melt targets, and Shiv works incredibly well in skirmishes because for each champion that you hit with the chain lightning effect, you're going to gain a stack of Volibear's passive. So if you enter a grouped up fight and get your Shiv proc off, then you can get your passive stacked up almost instantly and just begin outputting massive DPS. With the standard Volibear build of Navori Flicker Blades, it's going to give you a strong extended fight, but the upfront power isn't really there. This is something that makes Shiv so good because players just won't be expecting this kind of burst coming out of Volibear, and you can catch enemies off guard in the mid game. As you get later on in the game, you can build stuff like Riftmaker, Nashor's Tooth, and Zanya's depending on what you think fits best for the game. If you want a heavy split push build, then going Nashor's Tooth is going to allow you to absolutely decimate towers, and if you want better teamfight strength, then Riftmaker or Zanya's will be the play. Press the Attack is the best keystone rune, as it's just going to add to the crazy amount of upfront burst that this build provides. So we just released a short a few days ago talking about the Airy strategy on Ornn, but we want to feature it in this video as well for those who missed it. So you can do this on other tanks too, but it's most popular on Ornn right now, as you go Airy for your keystone rune and then rush Bramble Vest in matchups where the enemy is auto-reliant and you are less likely to be able to get constant grasp procs off against them. So the Vayne matchup is definitely the best for this, and the reason Bramble with Airy works so well is that whenever the enemy auto-attacks you and takes damage from the Bramble Vest passive, Airy damage will also be applied to them. So this just means that if the enemy tries to auto you down, then they're going to be taking a lot of damage in return for doing so without you actually having to land any of your abilities. Here's what the full rune page is looking like, as you're going Airy with Mana Flow, Transcendence, and Scorch, while Second Wind and Overgrowth are for secondaries. If you're taking Doran's Shield for your starting item, going Second Wind in runes, and then opting for this Airy with Bramble setup, the enemy will have a very difficult time poking you out of lane. After rushing your Bramble Vest, you don't actually want to fully complete Thornmail, as Unending Despair and Canik Rookern are higher priority items to finish. It's no secret how OP Smolder has become with the Black Cleaver and Deathfire Touch strategy, but one other champ who's quite underrated with it is Yorick. So Black Cleaver Rush is actually Yorick's best performing rush item right now. However, it's only being played by about 10% of Yorick players. Black Cleaver with Deathfire Touch works great on Yorick, since when he throws his E on the enemy, he's going to proc the burn from Deathfire and get Black Cleaver's passive up to 4 stacks. So if your team is playing a more physical damage comp, then going for this Black Cleaver into Deathfire strategy is especially good. Even though Yorick's E is only going to give him 4 out of the 5 Cleaver stacks, we aren't even taking into account if his ghouls are jumping to the target. If you have your ghouls jumping around you and they jump to the enemy when you land your E, then you will be gaining the 5 stacks of Cleaver. So being able to stack Black Cleaver's passive before you even get into melee range of your target and start smacking them with Q is super nice. Second item in this build for Yorick is Voltaic Cyclosword, and it's a really great pickup for Yorick because his ghouls are able to proc the passive damage damage. Ghouls don't help stack the energized effect quicker, but they will proc it, so the overall effectiveness of Voltaic is really good on Yorick and skirmishes. And then rounding out the core will be a Leandrius to add even more burn damage to the setup. With Hail of Blades getting some big adjustments in 26.9 to where you now deal true damage on your 3 auto attacks, the rune has started finding some really good success on Nocturne. Lethality Nocturne has always been quite underrated for solo queue, and it's got even better because of these Hail of Blades buffs. Burst damage is just really nuts because when your Q is down on the ground, it provides a ton of bonus AD, and therefore getting those 3 quick autos off from Hail of Blades is going to be super impactful. Diving in with R on a squishy target is a near guaranteed one-shot, as you're going Profane Hydra as the rush item into Axiomarch second and Voltaic Cyclo Sword third. The Profane active combined with a Voltaic passive and then rounded out with the Hail of Blades autos is going to allow you to one-shot whichever squishy target you dive onto. Now, of course, the one downside to the build is that you are very squishy yourself, so it's most ideal to run this build in games where you have a bunch of squishy targets that you'll be able to R. If the enemy team is majority bruiser or tank and the enemy ADC is the only target that you will be able to R in fights, then just going for the standard bruiser Nocturne build will be best. So a build that has become a lot more popular as of last patch that we want to highlight for Shyvana consists of taking Trinity Force as her rush item. With a full patch of data from 26.9 for Shyvana builds, it's just looking like Trinity Force is the more optimal rush now over Kraken Slayer. Trinity users have been winning 1% more than Kraken users, so by no means is Kraken terrible, but especially in the right spots, you should be prioritizing Trinity Force now. Where Trinity will be stronger than Kraken is in games where the enemy team is more durable. If they are a more bruisery team and lack a bunch of squishy targets, then your core of Trinity Force and Spear of Shojin will suit you incredibly well. The issue with Kraken into Dusk and Dawn is that you're a bit more squishy yourself, so if you're diving into a fight and you can't kill anyone because they're tanky, then it doesn't really matter if you're doing more damage. By going Trinity Force into Shojin, you are a lot more durable and you will have your spells up to rotate through a lot more frequently. W is going to come off cooldown a lot quicker, and while you're in dragon form, it's going to provide the heal, so more W's in fights means more sustain, and you're just overall a lot stronger in extended fights with this setup. There's actually a ton of different third item options that are performing really well with this setup on Shyvana, so lots to experiment with. Death's Dance, Sundered Sky, Riftmaker, Experimental Hexplate, and Steric's Gauge are all viable third items for. Another jungler who has been loving the changes to Hail of Blades and dominating with a lethality build is Briar. So Briar not only gets to run Hail of Blades for her rune, but Voltaic Cyclo Sword is absolutely crushing it as her rush item. For some reason, over 40% of Briar players are rushing the Collector when Voltaic is just so much better. You get way more burst coming out of Voltaic Cyclo Sword due to the new % health damage passive, and the item works perfectly for Briar because she has a really good extended skirmish, and since the new Voltaic offers you 15 bonus lethality after you hit your target, you can finish off your target really easily too. You dive in, get that first auto off to activate the 15 bonus lethality, and then your following Hail of Blades autos are going to chunk for a crazy amount of damage. The fact that you can get 25 lethality from Voltaic just makes it a no-brainer rush item on so many champs, since lethality as a stat is way more valuable early in the game. An ADC who's level 6 is going to have around 45 armor, so by rushing Voltaic, you are going to literally cut their armor by more than 50%. Another jungler who is really strong with the new Voltaic Cyclo Sword is Hecarim. Hubris has really fallen off on Hecarim after the nerfs from last patch, while Voltaic is winning the most for any rush item on the champ. Since Hecarim is a champion who takes Ghost as one of his summoner spells, he abuses the Voltaic passive better than most champs. In order to charge up the energized effect from Voltaic, you need to be moving or basic attacking, and Hecarim is going to be moving around very fast if he's going Ghost, and then also taking Storm Raider's Surge in runes. Storm Raiders is buffed for this patch, so it should land in a spot to where it's now viable on Hecarim, as last patch Conqueror was just outperforming. After you rush Voltaic on Hecarim, you don't actually need to build into more lethality items, as Spear of Shojin and Death's Dance are great follow-up purchases. The passive on Voltaic Cyclo Sword deals % health damage, so it's still going to be extremely effective even if you transition into bruiser items from then on out. In theory, you actually get more value out of Voltaic Cyclo Sword's passive if you build more tanky, since you'll be able to stick in fights longer and get more frequent passive procs off. Assassin Pantheon mid is incredibly underrated for 26.10, as he's a mid lane champ finding great success with the new Voltaic Cyclo Sword. Cyclo Sword and Ghostblade are going to be your core items on Pantheon. The order in which you purchase each item is up for debate though. If you're in a melee matchup, then the value from the Ghostblade active won't be as high, and therefore you can just go to the higher damage option with Cyclo Sword. In a ranged matchup though, just getting onto your target will be your biggest hurdle, and it will make rushing Ghostblade higher value for the movement speed active. So a sample core build would look like a Voltaic Cyclo Sword rush into Ghostblade second and Edge of Night third. Where this lethality build will work especially well for you is in games where the enemy is playing a squishy melee like Kassadin, Yone, Akali, Yasuo, or Katarina. Those champs need to dive into fights to be effective, so if you're just waiting there with your point and click W and a load of burst damage to follow, they really won't be able to function at all in skirmishes. And then make sure to take Electrocute for the Keystone rune when running lethality so that you can burst even harder. So one of the most underrated ADC builds in the game right now that is actually turning Kalista into a viable champion consists of taking Static Shiv as her rush item. The reason Shiv works so well on Kalista is because when she procs the Shiv passive, it's going to spread her E onto all targets that were hit by the chain lightning effect. So if you're skirmishing with Kalista, then you now have an AoE slow that you can use to help you kite around and stick to targets easier. You're also just able to stack up the energized proc incredibly fast on Kalista because of her passive hops. You charge up the energized effect when moving and when attacking, so the fact that Kalista can move after every single auto allows her to stack it up faster than most champs. After building Static Shiv, you want to go into Rage Blade second because the ramping attack speed from Rage Blade is going to synergize very well with Static Shiv, as the more you're attacking, the more Shiv procs you're able to get off. And then Lethal Tempo will be the optimal Keystone rune so that you're attacking even faster. So with Hail of Blades becoming stronger recently, it started being picked by one of the best Vayne players in EU who goes by 47. We've covered his build in the past, which revolves around Hubris, Fiend Thunderbolts, and Hex Optics, but the main difference now is that you take Hail of Blades for the Keystone. Vayne's true damage proc from W becomes almost instant, and you also get the true damage from Hail of Blades autos, so lots of true damage overall. The Fiend Thunderbolts with Hail of Blades combo is completely insane as well, because both amp your next 3 auto attacks, so you're basically playing this heavy burst version of Vayne that is going to be able to one-shot any squishy in sight. Now, of course, if you are going up against a tankier enemy team, then this build won't be nearly as effective. 3 quick bursty autos won't be enough to kill a tank, and then you'll have rather poor extended DPS potential after that, so you'd still want Lethal Tempo if playing into tankier teams. Against a majority squishy comp though, definitely look to try out Hail of Blades on Vayne, as it makes her a lot more forgiving. You don't even need to be able to space super well or kite perfectly in fights. All you gotta do is pop your R, land your 3 autos, and watch the enemy's health bar disappear. But while lists like these show you what to play, our brand new Season 16 Essentials courses for every role teach you how to win, each designed to walk you through every stage of the game from start to finish. From the exact trading and recall timers you need to win lane, to the mid-game macro decisions 99% of players get completely wrong, all the way to the team fighting tips and tricks challengers abuse to always deal the highest damage possible. Whether you're a top laner in the most unfavorable matchup possible, a mid laner having to deal with everybody in your lane 24/7, a jungler trying to balance ganking with farming, an ADC stuck trying to hard carry with a support who just exists to grief you, or a support that's struggling to carry games on your own. Our Essentials courses are tailor-made to focus on the exact concepts that actually matter for climbing on your role in your elo. Check them out today, completely risk-free, using the link in the pinned comment or description below, as if you don't climb at least 5 divisions, you get every penny back. So there you have it, everyone. Those are 10 of the most OP new builds that you can play for 26.10. Thank you all so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.